Hey guys, working on a Hamilton Stage 1 head. I think it's Stage 1. This is that head that I took, or I was showing you guys a little bit about. The customer has decided that he wants to, sorry for the background noise, I got the parts washer going. I got some parts I had to get cleaned up. So just disregard that. But he wants me to just do a quick once over on the head to make sure everything's good, everything's clean. So I'm going to pull all the valve springs out, pull the seals off, pull the valves out, you know, a couple little things on it, and we'll see what's going on. Hopefully everything is good, because I'm hoping that I can just get it cleaned up quick and I can put it on the engine, and then tomorrow we can get the head bolted on, the rockers bolted on, you know, all that stuff that we have to do to finish this thing off for the guy, because I would like to get it finished. Being that we were waiting quite a long time for the camshaft, so now we got the camshaft and the short block is together. I need to get the head together. So for any of you guys that haven't used this as a tool, I actually ended up just having to buy. I couldn't find my old one, so this is the tool that we're using for pulling this apart. Made by Torque Tech Tools. I think it's Torque. I guess it's Torque Tools. They make all kinds of stuff for this type of thing. So for you guys that have never used one of these things, what I do recommend, now we use this type of stuff all the time, but the one that I had, I lent out and the guy didn't bring back, of course. So if you ever call and want to borrow a tool, the answer will be no, for that reason. The few wreck it for the many, I guess, is the thing that most people say. But anyways, what I do recommend, all I do is just tighten this. Like, these things are pretty simple to use, but I always put a little bit of oil on the threads, and I do just a drop of oil every time I go up and down with it, and they don't wear out. Alright, doing voiceover on this part of the video. Actually, most of the video will be this way. I just kind of did it in a couple steps, so I figured it was easier to just do it like this, and I had a couple people come to the shop, so I was talking to them. But pulling all the valve springs off, this thing does have 175 conicals on it, which is what comes on these heads standard. And that tool makes pretty short work of taking this stuff apart. I do sometimes do it on the seat and guide machine, just depending on what I got on the go. But the tool does make life a lot easier. So if you're going to play around with these things, I would recommend buying the tool. I will put a link for their website. I don't have any sort of affiliation with them, but I'll put a link in the website, or on the website, a link in the description for you guys that are interested. Just pulling all the valves out, just checking and see what everything looks like. They were lapped and everything looked pretty good as far as that goes. So just cleaning everything up, give it a bit of a break, clean down. I haven't got to that point yet, but just want to make sure everything's clean and everything felt good. There was no tight spots in anything, that type of stuff. Just like to make sure that everything's kosher. They do a lot of these things, so it's kind of a mass production type setup sometimes when you're doing this. So this point, I'm just wiping all the valves down, making sure there's no grit or any of that stuff on them, and then as soon as I get that all done and I'm setting them out, as I pulled them out, I kept them in order. So at this point, I'm just lubing up the valve stems with engine assembly lube, and I'm sliding them all in so that everything is lubed. I like to use engine assembly lube because the oil can drip off. All right, guys, getting this thing together here. I just wanted to show you guys the one advantage to these cylinder heads is the number 6 intake port is definitely a better design, because the back of the intake obviously is right here. We talked about the intake plenum doesn't have all the extra embossments for stuff. So it does help with the flow on the intake plenum side, but the intake valve for number 6 is definitely opened up. Same with number
Number one is definitely a better design as well. And then, well, you're talking about the exhaust port. The exhaust ports are definitely larger. The swirl pattern in these is a little bit better too. I know the original ones didn't have a real good swirl pattern to them. These ones are pretty good, but just thought I'd point that out for you guys that are watching the video.
So just got done talking a little bit about the ports there and stuff. I talked a little bit about before it in the last video. If you guys check the unboxing video of doing these heads. So just cleaning up the valve seals that were on there. Like I said, this has a brand new head and there wasn't anything wrong with the seals. Something I do recommend is put a drop of oil on the valve guide itself so the seal goes on easy. Also, something that I do on when I'm working on these things is the big roll blue tape there, which I don't know, I think we buy it off Amazon, but it's a big wide roll of painter's tape. I like to put that on because if you put that over top of your intake, one, it gives you somewhere to put your keepers, and also gives you peace of mind that you know nothing is going to fall into the intake. So I leave that on there if we're building the engines, or like whenever we do a cylinder head, one of these cylinder heads, I always put a strip of tape across it so that I know that there's nothing in the intake port and nothing fell in the intake port while you're doing this. So when the customer pulls the tape off at that point, I know that there was nothing in the intake ports. Better, safe than sorry. And I don't know, I think it looks good. So just to each his own. I used to do it just with Normal's painter tape, but we found this wide stuff, and it just makes life a little easier. But like I said, it gives you a nice spot to put stuff. You don't have to worry about trying to keep everything organized on the bench, and everything nice and clean there after you clean the keepers. It's nice to be able to keep them organized and not falling all over the place. Or there again, dropping something in the intake because it is a great big gap. Drop a screwdriver, nut, bolt, screw, I don't know. God knows, something flies off, something somebody else is working on. Like I said, that way you just don't have to worry about it, right? Putting everything back together, it's the same as, taking apart, obviously just in the opposite doing it. For the most part, they do go in together relatively easy. Sometimes you fight. I find that I usually have to fight with a couple of them, and then the rest go pretty easy, but I do quite a few of them, so I guess that kind of makes me a little bit biased to it. But for the most part, it's not too bad.
All right, guys, got the head all back together, as you guys seen in the time lapse. I don't know if there's anything else that I really needed to talk about. We talked about this in the first video. The casting is different on these things. It's a little heavier duty. It does have better valve springs on it, obviously, than normal, but the valves are the same size and all that stuff as normal ones. The seats are cut very similar. It does have a bit of a performance valve seat or valve cut on it, or valve seat cut on it, but nothing super crazy. So anyways, that's the wrap up on this. If you guys have any questions for me on the cylinder head, if you ask me in the next couple days after I get this posted, I will do my best to let you guys know. All right, well, remember, it's not rocket science.